Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to build a RESTful API using nestjs and Prisma. First, let's have a look at what is nestjs. So nestjs is a node framework for building efficient, reliable, and scalable server-side application. Then what is Prisma? Prisma actually just a next generation Node.js and TypeScript ORM. Basically, Prisma will connect to your database and do a type generation. And now just let's go to my terminal. First, and follow the nestjs documentation, and we're going to use nestjs documentation to generate our projects. So I already have an npm nestjs CLI installed globally, so only need to run the second line like a list new projects. I'll call it a cat API. I'm going to use yarn. The generation take 1 or 2 minutes. So it's going to set up all of the type configuration and also for the ESLint and the printer, so you can start from it. And before it, since it's going to generate, so for today's demo, we're going to cover most of them for the controller and the provider and the module. For nestjs is follow best practice. So we first have the app model. Inside the app model, we're going to contain other two modules. One is called the cat model, another one called the use model. So the use model is the cat owner. And another model we're going to also need has is for the shared model, is for called Prisma. We will use Prisma to connect to our database. You could see and the cat API, the projects has set up. So let's cd into it and bring it into the VS Code. Once we run the first generate the Scratch, and so everything they already set up ready to go. Also have a loader model installed. If you look into the package, and they already have the script, and the start file won't going to do hot reloaded. So we are going to just use the developer. If you're going to debug, you can run start debug mode. And in here, we're going to build everything from scratch. So I'm going to delete the controller and the servers, only leave the module over there. So in our module, we won't have a controller and the servers. So it's an empty module, so nothing yet. And like I said, we're going to build a cat API. So first, let's generate. Everything is modularized. So first, we have our new module called cat. Once you run this new module, two files is generated. One is called cat.module.ts. Another file is updated. It is our app.module.ts. It inject in here, so you don't need a manually to put over there. You can manually write your code, but then let's see. So the module, it is empty, and it uses decorate. So once you put a decorate module, then this is a module. Everything we're going to containerize inside the module. For model, we're going to we follow the list pattern. So every logic we actually put in the servers. So the cat has a servers called cat servers. And for handle request, I'm going to I won't cover the unit test in this demo, so I'm going to delete. And the servers cover the logic you talk to your database at your business logic validation loop, everything. But for handle the request coming in, request coming out, it is the controller. I'm going to say no spec, so it won't generate the test file. Now we have our cat. Every time you could see, once you generate it, actually create the file, also make sure it contains inside the cat model. So at the moment, if you go into the cat model, you see we have a provider is the servers and our business logic. And we also have the cat controller. The cat controller will handle the request and the response. In here, let's just build our first get. If we don't put anything by default, it will think this is so let's the first get just get the cats. Let's just return it. And for nestjs, it's quite smart. Once you don't need to say return JSON response or text string. Once it is an object, so it going to by default is JSON response, and the URL is going to /cat, and in which port you can go the main.ts. It by default running in the 3000. We only have one API already set up for the get. So let's start it. See what it look like. Now we have our first API set in localhost called cat. Since it is a get, so we can just use the browser. Suppose don't have a space. So these are the API. And for this demo, like I said, we going to use the Prisma talk to our database. And the Prisma not just connect to your database, also generate the type for your model. So now we need to set up our API. And once they make the request, we need the cat servers connect with the Prisma, get the data from the database, and the cat servers will inject into the cat controller. So now just let's stop in here because we're going to have the Prisma set up. If you how to set up Prisma, you actually can go here, run a command. Prisma, yeah. So in here, so we need has the Prisma installed. It is a small library, should be quite very quickly. So it's installed successfully, and it haven't set up yet. For the setup, also quite very simple. They has a command called npx prisma init. Now it's done. So once the Prisma set up, you have a new folder in your root and projects. It's called Prisma, and they have one file just over there, and called Prisma, and it connected to the Prisma client, and the database is from the environment database URL. So they actually Prisma put one database URL link in the .m file, you see. And now we need a database. So before we go into, so we need to update this one pointed to our local database. and we could use a Docker image, and I have a YAML file. Just use the YAML file to generate our local database. You can run Docker command and dash up file dash port dash username dash password, but we just use a YAML file to handle it, so it's very easier. So basically in here I'm going to up a service called catdb, and where it is use the Postgres image, use the Postgres, and this internal this external port, this is internal port, and this is the username and the password, and the database name we're going to name it catdb. For bring this up, it's actually quite simple. So before we're going to talk to it, we need to have this it is up. catdb is this service name, and -d it is named and run in the background. The first time it's up take time. It's going to pull the image and then run it up. I actually run it before, but I deleted it, so it actually go download it. So before this is going to download it, let's just update our database and to our local host. So if we go into the .m file, we actually pointed this one is supposed to point to the username. Username actually is Postgres. This is the password. Password is 123. And then it in the port is 5232. It is correct. And by DB action named it is this one. And if you have a Docker installed in here, we also can see the this one we just update. If we click dashboard, you can see we have this Postgres just up. This is the name, and the name suppose is this one, and the password you could see over in the YAML file, and this is just up. Once the Postgres is up, then we can start create some model. It connect, then we can type our model, put in here, then run a prismajs command can generate the type for our defined model, also generate the migration scripts. So first, let's create two models. One is called the cat, another one is the cat owner. We name it as a user. I'm going to copy paste over there instead you look at me type. So we have the user, we only put a name, and we expect the user, the email is unique, and then we have the name, and we have the cat. A user has multiple cats, and how they do relationship, it actually is in this key. So in here, the cat has the owner, then the owner ID, the reference is referred to the ID, so this builds the relationship. Once I have these scripts defined, we can run prismajs command. We first can say prismajs help. Then will tell you which command we can do. In this case, we're going to run prismajs migrate dev. What this command do, it actually I just say edit. And you see these the scripts that are generated. So if we go here, you could see we have a new folder called migrations. These migrations is generated the migrate file for this create the table. And we could use Prisma to see. We expect that in the studio have a two table exist. One is the user table, one is the cat table. This is the model, and this is. If we click the user open, we have nothing inside yet. This is the key, we just defined it. Since we have the Christmas is up, and now we actually also need another model. Like I said, in here, we have a cat model, but we also need has the user model. So let's just generate the users. Everything is modelized. So we're going to first have the model, then we have the servers. Now we could have our controller. And if we go into our app.model, you see the model by default already in. If you use this run scripts generate, it will inject in here. And we have our cat controller, they all empty, and also we have the user controller, user model, and the user servers. We also built the Prisma. Since the user and the cat, both of them all need to talk to a Prisma, we're going to create another model called a Prisma model, and later they inject into the cat and the user. Later they talk to our backend to get the data, insert the user, insert the cat, and the fetch, all handled by the Prisma model. So we need to generate another model. And for the model, we also generate the servers. You can see the changes in here. And also we're going to generate the controller. For the Prisma actually won't direct talk to the request, so we actually don't need to generate the controller. We actually just need the model, and this model can be shared between cat and the user if you have another model. And since this model going to share, we actually need to add a change for this. We need to make this model is global available. So we're going to get the global decorated. And we just simply let this one is a global available. Since on these servers, we let this inject in the app, but actually the logic is handled in the Prisma servers. So we make sure these servers can be used in the cat and the user. So in here, we also need to expose. So now these servers can be used in the cat servers, also in the Prisma servers. And currently the Prisma servers is empty. We actually need to let the Prisma servers talk to our Prisma database. And it's just, so we actually need one thing. It is our Prisma client. So like I said, everything is modularized. This Prisma client we have installed. Let's install it. So the Prisma client actually already has the implementation connected to our the database. And for us, we only simply just need to add a constructor. And inside our constructor, we need the super file to access this Prisma client. And in here, we just need a database. What is the database? And need the URL. Let's close it. Close the super. In here, the URL, we could just copy paste this URL into here. But we actually have a better way to handle it, because this easy, we can easily make a mistake like this. And so there, nestjs have a module called config. We can use the config module to get this URL. So similar like Prisma just use the env to get this database URL. We like use the config in here to get it. So we actually need another module called config. This config module is nestjs provided. Once we installed, we can just input the configuration. And the configuration, we're going to inject it in here. And we have the now we have the configuration. Use the configuration. We could use the get. And just get the database thing like the env get. In here we can use this way to get. We have installed it. We also have an input in here, but this module, it is nestjs provided module. We also need to make sure this module, it is inside this app. So we actually need to update the app to the module file to input this config module. Then we can use it. We can directly put this one into the Prisma model. Don't really need a part in here. But since this is a configuration setting, I think it's better just put in the configuration in global available. In this case, even we just put the configuration just in here, it haven't said it is global available. We also need to make sure all of other can access, the Prisma model can access. So it actually the configuration model, you can need a for root, then we can simply say is global equal to true. Then we can make sure this one is accessible. Now this one can access it. So since even you are only put in the app mode, but since you said this is the root, the app is our application root. And it's in here we said it's global available. Now in here we could access in here. Since we can access the Prisma, we actually can, then we can create a user into our database. Then we can create a user, the user create the logic we are in here. So the creator we're going to use a post. Everything is asynchronous. This is just the decorator. We need to have the function. Yeah, everything is a synchronous call. We talk about the validation later. So we expect that we insert a user. And then in the user, we don't do type script in here. We leave the Prisma to do type check. And in here, we're going to inject the servers in here. Instead, this actually is a user servers. And we call it a user servers. In here, we just simply return the user servers. I need to await. This is asynchronous. Going to create the user. We haven't do anything in the user servers yet. The user servers is empty. In Prisma, everything is a DTO. So the Prisma we are generate the DTO. We're going to instead and just type is user. We're going to call it a DTO. And in here we have the DTO in here. This DTO passed the user servers. The user servers will talk to the DTO. Let's just go there. You see that at the moment I have nothing. Let's just copy paste the code and let's talk through it. So in here we actually need here we're going to talk to the Prisma. So we actually need to inject it. So this injectable, it actually means you can inject the other servers in here. Now we have injected the Prisma. Prisma is a globe we already defined. So in here we only need to add it in here. And we haven't created the creator yet. So we need to first have our created. And we accept the DTO because this we're going to insert into our database. And we need to define our user DTO. In here, I'm going to create it. We haven't created yet. So DTO, since we like everything just modularized in here, this DTO is going to the user DTO. So we in the user folder, we're going to have a DTO folder. And in here, we can create a user DTO. And the user DTO and actually quite simple. We only need an email and a stream. So what is this DTO? It actually matches what we defined in the model. So we expect the email and the string and with a list of the cat. Now we have our DTO. If we go here, go our servers, and we can import our DTO on top. Now we're going to use this Prisma, insert into our database, and use Prisma actually quite very simple. And so let's do a try catch. So this one we're going to say await this Prisma, and this Prisma can access to the user. They already have intelligence over here. And in this is a creator. We need a creator, and we expect the objects and the data, and this just two field email DTO dot email, and also the name DTO dot name. So if we create successfully in here, we just return the user. And now this one is existent. If we go into the user, go into the controller. It's working. And this user service is just in here to use, so you just need to have the decorate, have the key, and tell them it's private or public, and then you can use it. Now just let's run it. We can create a user now. We need to use a postman. And in localhost, in the user, we expect the email and a username. Now one user is created. I can prove it is in there. So you see one user is created with the name and the email. Now if we are created the user, we actually haven't put any validation yet. So the second thing I'm going to cover is we're going to validate this endpoint. Validate the endpoint instead in here write logic is to check this DTO has the username, has the email. Then Prisma actually has a model. We need to install it. Let's search validation. So if in here you see we actually do class validation and the class transform. So if we copy this one installed in here, then we can use it and decorate to do a validation. Let's just update the user code to use the validation. So we expect the email is the email, and also expect the name. It is a string, not so a string and the email, because the email need a unique, so we expect the email cannot be empty. And this, I think this is supposed to do a validation. Let's try it again. I already running. I just stopped the Prisma Studio. So let's see if I put the number in here to a validation. If I put a 32 and I put a digit number 2, see it validated. It hasn't validated. Just if go doesn't return the error message to us. We're missing one step. It is in the they root this step. We need it to use our validation. So we need to do two things. First, install the module and do the custom validation. Then the second thing, in our root, we need to make sure we use the validation pipeline. And then we just, before it go into our app, we can just do in here. So use the global pipe validation. And this whitelist, and it means if the key didn't define the path, they are going to stop it. So let's see this one. 201 created. Created again. How come? Actually, it working. So it actually stopped to insert into our Prisma. So if you go into Prisma Studio, we could see we still only has one record over there. The reason it didn't return any message because in we haven't finished the code for the user servers. In here, we suppose through error. Also going to do a validation. It is before going to the server, the DTO going to do validation. So if you go into the controller, at the moment we say everything, we actually expect it is a user DTO. It is this one. And I'm going to create an index. So we're going to export everything from this DTO. It can shorter for us to input this user DTO. So in here, instead of any, we actually use this DTO to do a validation. So we're going to input. And instead of this any, we're going to expect it is a user DTO. So the user DTO going to do the validation. In here, they say no, not the DTO. Actually, it's called a DTO. So if we're going to try it again, in here, and if we expect it actually a string. If we pass a number, then we send a request to the backend. It will be captured. Say name must be a string. And also in Prisma, they do a duplicate key validation. We can just when we're going to insert the user going to the user servers. So if in here we're going to check if the user already be taken, we're going to tell the customer and somebody going to register the user, we tell them it already be taken. So before going to through, first check if it is already it is a null of a Prisma client. So Prisma client going to do a duplicate check. If the code is 2002, then we tell them the email has been taken. So now if we're going to make a request again with a duplicate the email, you say email has already been taken. But if we I also set up one extra thing, we are going to do this whitelist, and this is forbidden. So every key, if didn't define in our DTO, and we're going to just also return validation message for them. If we pass a DOB, okay. You get say property DOB should not be exist. This is forbidden, so it won't go into inside. It already stopped at the controller level. The user. You see, in the user controller level, we only has two keys. So this one we are working alone with this forbidden. In the main forbidden whitelist. If not parted, it cannot be send in. Now if we're going to create another user, we call the user 2, and we remove this one 32 and we expect we have another one in over there. Then we expect 2 record. Let's just refresh. You could see we have a 2 record is over there. I have manually deleted something. That is why they in the ID key already jumped to 4. And now we have the user is created. We can follow the same pattern and create the other one. So let's see. We go into create a user, and we also go into see the user. So this is a post, and let's create another one for the user controller. And so we're going to get all the user and display in the API. So the controller, so we can create a post and get another just in here. The get actually don't expect anything because we're going to list all of them. We just in our server, we need to have the controller in here. This is the one function, this is another one. We expect it's going to return everything. I think that's it. So if we go into the get, we expect 2 list of user. Yeah, and we also just create another one, just get a user by email. Since the email is unique, we can just create another one, find one in our user servers. So this more or less like you test your prismajs on found by email. And then in the user controller you can export it. You expect that they send your email. Let's copy paste the code instead of I'm typing. So this is a parameter. Go here. This for you access the URL you passed in the parameter, and here we need find by email. So now if I go here and just put a /email, I only suppose just get by this email one return one object. So it is 32. And we can do the similar for the cat controller and the cat model and the cat servers. We actually do the same thing. And first the cat, so we can use the model in the user. We also can use the prisma model in the cat. And everything, and when you go into the request, we actually expect it is in the DTO use the cat. And we're going to have a cat.dto.ts and we export from the index. And the cat DTO, we also expect that the cat, for the cat key we needed, it is previously defined in here. We expect have a name, have age, breed, and we're going to insert into the user. The user is supposed to pre-exist the cat, then has owner, otherwise the cat won't has owner. And so we actually the composer key only have a name, age, and breed in here. Once we have, let's just export the cat DTO in the index. Put it in the non place. Put it in the cat DTO, then we export everything out from the cat DTO. And in the controller, we need to use this cat DTO talk to our servers. Since the server is going to talk to our database, insert everything in cat into the servers. Let's just finish the servers first. So in the cat, we can do the cat servers. Everything and the hard work are all done in the cat servers. We expect has the cat servers. We expect the Prisma talk to the Prisma, and we expect the DTO to do a type check. And for the creator, we actually just first we need to do dependency inject the Prisma over there. So this is our Prisma. And once I have the Prisma, then we can create the thing like the user. And in this one, and then code is very easy. So you access the Prisma, then you the cat. And the owner, it is what you passed it. So you actually send it to which owner and with the DTO. So the owner ID will of this in here. And if you need to display everything, is the simplest one. We can find all. We also can get the cat by owner. If we know the owner ID, we can get all this owner listed the cat. And we can delete. We can delete the cat. Okay, this is. So if they, of course, the owner itself can delete his cat. I just don't let someone else delete other owner's cat. So we do a validation check before going to delete it. Now we have our servers set up. Now we can just go to our cat controller, inject the cat servers into the cat controller. First, we need our DTO. Instead of create a DTO, how about just, yeah, it's fine. And also we need the cat servers. And for our dependency injection, we need to use our cat servers to talk to our backend. In here, get the cats. Instead of get the cats, we actually the cats we actually belong to owner. So we're going to expect to have the owner ID. Once we have the owner ID, we could use this one, use the servers to return the cat by the owner ID. In here, you can access the primes. And the owner ID, we expect it is a integer. And in the URL, everything it is a string, we can just pass it. This actually already built the int pass. So we're going to pass to a int. So if they're coming in, we extract the owner ID. We are only looking for the owner ID from the URL. Get the owner ID, pass to a int, then get the cat. Then the cat servers go into the database, fetch this list owner's cat. But at the moment we haven't created any cat for the owner yet, so everybody will return input this array. And let's just create a cat first. And the cat create need to belong to a owner. Same, we're going to use the create, we always use the post. And this body, it is they build in pub. So it actually they decorate, they already built in. We can use access the border. We do a validate it. Use the create cat. You see, if we use the DTO will do the validation. Expect the send the number is age is number and breed is a string and name is a string, and then we can go inside create it. We also can delete a cat in here. Delete the method. So if the owner can delete his own cat, and from the URL we know they always a string we pass to a int, because when our delete expected the interface their number. You see the whole method, it is the prismajs automatically just do a type check. If we go in here, we expect the number, and this one going to return a promise of ID and the type, and now we can test it. First we go into, you see this owner is number 4, so the URL what we build it for created, it is if we're going to create a cat, go into the controller, we go into the owner and create a cat. We expect to have this name, age, breed. So if I bring here, we go into a post, and we're going to give the owner, this owner, we already see this owner is ID is number 4, and this URL, you see the cat, it is this one, and the owner 4, this we'll get this one we'll get from here, the owner ID, and then the body, we expect the name, age, and the breed. If we just pass something randomly, don't accept from here, see what is the error message. Okay, property image should not exist. Age must be integer, breed must be a string. So this key actually is supposed to not exist, only the name key. This didn't define in here. They say no, don't accept it. They cannot find the age. They say, so what is the return age must be integer. It also, you know, the age actually is missing. Must be integer, give a integer 1. And which one missing? Breed. Breed must be a string. And name my cat Kimi. If I created property age, it should not exist, because I'm typing now. It expect the AGO, I type AGE, I type the equal, so age. Now it is created. Now we can see this, get this owner, get the owner, get a list the owner by this, and then create another one for this cap. So H2, Kimi 2, my dog. H3, Kimi 3, my dog. And now if we get this cat, so we list all of the cat by this owner, we can use the get. So you see all of this cat is a list 3 kitten for this cat. For this owner can delete. If we go into here, this owner can delete the cat. We expect the cat ID. Maybe let me delete the cat number 3. You see, cat. We expect the 2 parameters. One is the owner ID, one is the cat ID. So, owner is 4, cat ID 3. Deleted or not? Owner ID. Then it is the cat ID. Let's see. it is deleted. And why it doesn't say anything? I think because in here it didn't return. If we say return, it will give us some information. If I delete cat2, delete, you see, it tells us the cat2 has been deleted. Let's insert it. Kimi3 already deleted. Let's insert Kimi3 back. And if we go into 1, they only delete cat3. See what it return to us. See, access denied because this Kimi3 doesn't belong to this cat. He don't allow it, so it goes to in here. So overall, you could see most of the code is actually by user generate, either use list generate or just use prismajs generate. And we are just take the less than hour already created 2 API, 3 model, and with a few endpoint. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Bye.